This is like it's like a young adult, probably 8 to 15-year-old.
Hello.
Hi.
Right.
Sorry.
I was living up in Lake Tahoe when I first started getting the idea of the story, and I'd read a few books, some fantasy books that I really enjoyed, and kind of was isolated up there, I thought, a little bit in Lake Tahoe, and so I started putting this little story together, and I actually wrote it down, but then I kind of left it, and I got back to work and didn't revisit it again. And when we moved and things got moved around, I lost all that writing that I did. And then I started writing it again years later, and just got frustrated with it and threw it in the fireplace. And but then my mother died about 4 years ago, and so I decided that that would be a good lead character for the story that I had in my head for all this time. And so the story started to grow from that, and you know, and little memories of her I put in the book, and then I put my father in the book with her, and they were young, and little bits and pieces of my family I put in there, and so that's kind of the reason I started writing it again, because I felt I had a valid character that I felt comfortable with. So.
You want me to make it up to someone's?
Yes, Jenny, but you know what? I think it's... How are you? Jenny. Ask for her. Is this your
This is my brother.
agent here?
This is my brother Johnny.
I am his agent.
Yeah.
I get 99%. Nice to meet you. What is it? Joey?
Joey.
Joey.
Hi. My mouth full of good little hors d'oeuvres. How are you? Yeah, I'm fine. What's your bathroom is coming here? All right, I'm coming. They're coming. But you know, as far as just sent over, I ended up not doing Tommy because he's so expensive.
Hi, I'm Judy Parker, and I manage the American Cancer Society's Discovery Shop in Pacific Grove, and we are having a big fundraiser tonight, and it is a gala event for art and books, and we have Tom Bristol here doing a book signing of his book that he has just recently published, and several pieces of exquisite art and other miscellaneous books, and the funds go to fight cancer.
Pretty good. I mean, you know, pretty pleased with the way it's been accepted. Some of the teachers at school have read it and are reading it to their class, and they enjoy the story. And
John got to the edge of the Tower Bridge Road first and stopped to wait for the others. When all were together again, John said to Whitaker, "Were we followed?" "No," said Whitaker. "But the night seems strange. The road seems busy." Whitaker didn't mention that he thought he had seen the man named Tom on the bridge. "Let's go," Penelope said. She got up to take the lead. "Wait," John said, stopping her. "Over there. Across the road, there's a group of travelers moving quickly. Let's wait." Penelope got back in position behind John and put her hand on his shoulder. The group on the road was moving quickly. They seemed to be a group of children with 2 adults. They made it to the Tower Bridge Road. One of the men was carrying something over his shoulder, and he was looking around suspiciously. In a moment, they had crossed the bridge and were gone. "Now," John said, "let's go."
Well, I really push my kids to read quite a bit. I mean, there's just because I think literacy is a really, really important thing for them. And a lot of them are language learners, so they need to spend a lot of time with vocabulary and actually just reading. It makes you a better reader, and so that's what we do a lot of. We read for a half hour silently. We listen to stories, and they read at home, and
These are books that we read. Like if we finish a book, we write a book report, and if Mr. Bristol writes good on it, that means you did well. So then you get one of these.
You get one of what?
These right here, and you get to color and write on the back what it was about. And then you have one of these, and then you take one of these and you hang it up on there. And that tells you how much you did. And then you go to the millionaire.
You like that method?
Huh?
You like that?
Yeah.
No? Very cool. What's your name?
Chris.
Okay, Chris. Thank you.
And actually just reading, it makes you a better reader, and so that's what we do a lot of. We read for a half hour silently. We listen to stories, and they read at home, and we read stories, together in the classroom, and then we dissect the story and we talk about different words, and and we summarize what happened in the story, and so.
It's always been accepted. Some of the teachers at school read it and are reading it to their class, and they enjoy the story. And my brother, who lives in Florida, I sent him a book. Kind of totally caught him off guard, and started reading it, loved it. So it's been been nice.
Yeah, that's what it's just like constant. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm not gonna. I wrote it because I enjoyed writing the story and having fun with it. And, I just started out writing it for myself, and I got to be everybody's. I have the second one almost finished. Yeah, so.
We were entering the hideout area, and it looked like it was midday or later. John told us to rest, that we would not be staying long, and then he disappeared into the forest. I found this wonderful spot that was kind of at the edge of the forest on a small rise, and it overlooked a large meadow. There was this nice small tree that was in the shape of a throne. It was very cool. I sat down and put my head back on the top of the throne, looked out onto the meadow, and closed my eyes. I could hear Frank telling them about his home. He seemed to enjoy that. I opened my eyes to look at the beautiful meadow again, and to my surprise, entering the meadow from the other side was a unicorn. I closed my eyes again tight and reopened them. Yes, there it was, a unicorn. I turned to the others and shouted to them. Then 2 other unicorns entered the meadows.
I started to write, and at first it seemed like it was a grind. But then it really, as a story unfolded, I really kind of got caught up in this other world, and it became so much fun to write, and to try to put little parts of my life in the book. It was kind of fun manipulating the words and the story, and so.
We have number 20. I'll put it in a box inside. Okay. And when you're ready to check out, you just give them this and you bring your stuff next.
Well, the number is so if they get.
George was in shock as he listened and dismounted instantly. He was surrounded by all 7 unicorns, and he didn't dare move. "You come here and try to deceive us with your nice words, but in your heart you are evil." The majestic steed directed his anger at George. I'm so sorry. I'm not evil. I'm lost, George whimpered. Please, help me find my friends. Still you try to deceive us, the ancient creature said. I'm sorry, can I go now? George asked nervously. No, we must teach you a lesson, the unicorn said, and with those words spoken he slowly began his transformation into a gigantic, vicious-looking white dragorn, the combination of a dragon and a unicorn. From his mighty shoulders enormous leathery white transparent wings unfurled. He spread these large transparent wings and flapped them a few times. The sound of the wings flapping directly over George's head made him cover his ears. The unicorn's hooves had transformed into enormous talons, and he reared up on his hind legs and kicked at George. The creature's head was the last thing to be transformed. It slowly grew larger and larger. Then fangs appeared on both sides of the creature's mouth. He now had a mouth full of sharpened teeth.
I just never had the time. I was always coaching football at PG or teaching.
So bring the book up a little higher. There we go. There we go. Thank you. This is a talking video. This. No. Okay, thanks. That'll work.
Writing this book, it was, you know, it's something of a discipline to actually sit down and to write on a consistent basis and to follow the system from beginning to end. And I think a lot of that discipline for me came while I was coaching football, because I had to have a plan, you know, before practices started in August. And then you had to follow the plan and you had to stick to the plan, and you know, in order to teach young people how to play this particular sport. So you had to be consistent, you had to be reliable, and you know, and those things also come into play when you're writing. I mean, you have to be disciplined, you have to be reliable to the story. I mean, you have to be consistent. I mean, and so those things helped me while I was a coach. And then when I started writing, those things helped me in that phase also.
Because she'll be an early reader.
Did you want me to make it out to her?
Oh, well, to both of them, I guess. To Danny, A-N-N-I.
D-A-N-N-I?
And Katie, K-A-T-I-E.
I always think those are cute.
Yeah.
It's 20.
Even? I think this is a great one.
Oh, is that them?
Pink for us. This is the other.
Curly hair.
Very cute, yeah.
I know. It's so curly, I was just horrified.
Portions of books that I wanted to add to my story, and so it was always in my head, and I was always kind of writing in my head. I didn't actually write it down, but I was thinking about storylines all the time. Where could the story go? And then when I did sit down, I had a bunch of storylines that I wanted to put into the book, and that's how chapter came after chapter after chapter. That's how it built on itself. So. Well, I have this lesson that I do in my classroom that the kids get a portion of a treasure map, and they fill it in, and then we have them write a story about the treasure map. And there was this one boy in my class that drew this really extensive map that wasn't part of the lesson. And he was writing his own story from that map. And I thought that that was a good way to help visualize where the story was going. And so that's what I did. I did that, and it actually helped me move, you know, around inside this world because I had the map and I knew where I was going. So, well, you know, forests are always kind of a mysterious place because you never really know what's there until you go inside it, you know, and it's always, you know, there are creatures in there, and there's things that have been untouched for long, long periods of time, and some of them are like treasures, you know. It's like this lost world, this lost place that that just kind of lives on its own, you know, without man being a part of it. So I thought just the kind of the unknown factor was a nice quality to have in a fantasy book.
Philadelphia, back and forth, lead changes, back and forth.
Boys, I would ask them if they wanted to read any of it, and they both would say, "Oh, when it's written, you know, when you have it in a book form, then I'll read it." So the motivation for me was to actually get it into book form, so they would read the story, because both of them are in the story, and I used some of their personality traits in the story, and so it was fun for me. And same with my wife, you know, she wanted to read it when it was complete, and I would tell them little bits and pieces about it, and they would chuckle.
Recruit an army, and so they want to get rid of this guy.
Ooh.
They follow him over there.
Oh, how cool. Is that the right word? Is that the right word?
In the morning and
How are you?
he did the floor, that's right.
Good? Isn't she?
I want Sean. Sean wants it. So here's okay. Just say to Sean, tell him Donna.
From Bill Clinton?
Tell him Donna.
From Bill Clinton? Okay.
You gotta quick. He called me because I was on my way out to a party, and it was fun. He's sickening everybody.
You know, a lot of people, even Republicans,
because I was doing more and more writing and teaching writing, and so it kind of got me into a mood to write, and but I was still petrified to actually write words down on a paper that someone else was going to read, because you know, you're just really insecure about writing, you know. I mean, just not insecure about telling the story, but insecure about putting it on paper and having someone else read it was kind of a terrifying. You know, I think that's what holds a lot of people back. I mean, just, you know, putting sentences together and paragraphs together. Oh, am I doing this right? I don't know if that's good enough. Where do I put the comma, you know? And so then by worrying about that, you kind of lose your creativity as a storyteller, you know, instead of just letting the story come and putting it down on paper, and then you're going to have to go back and change it and fix it anyway, so put it down and rework it later, you know.
There was Lord Gregory again. He rode his horse right into me. His horse hit me and threw me into the swamp. The horse seemed to be laughing at me as she bit me and tore part of my armor from my shoulder. I got up and out of the water and was dripping wet. As I wiped my face, I could see Lord Gregory riding away, and he was riding right toward Frank. He had his sword held high above his head, about to swing and cut Frank in half. Then something grabbed me and pulled me underwater. I was struggling, but I couldn't get myself free. Then a voice said, "Stop struggling and listen to me." I stopped, and the voice said, "Where can we help you?" I wanted to talk, but I was underwater. The lava people are too much for us to handle, I thought to myself. Suddenly, I was released, and I had come out of the water and was gasping for air. I grabbed Emerald, my sword, and climbed out of the swamp. Just before I returned to the battle, a small swamp boy popped up and waved at me. Then he disappeared back into the swamp.
So this was good.
Almost all of our better watches are priced at $20.
I think this particular story is going to be told in 3 books, but you know, the Adventures of Grace is going to continue in different avenues. I have probably about 3 more chapters in the second book. Battle for Azalea is the name of the second book, and it takes place in a kind of a mountain kingdom.